Hello, Ken Kroll here. I am the husband of Danette Kroll, who is the director of Team Magnificent and also a Sensi Superstar director. And we put together a brief presentation to help you understand and apply the knowledge that you'll need in order to drive your business towards becoming a Sensi director. And this is done in a three-part series. Each one is designed to be relatively short and to the point. The first one focuses on the basic concepts that you need to understand and apply. The second one goes into more how-to, and it focuses on primarily two concepts we'll be talking about throughout all three presentations, which is how to build breadth and depth into your Sensi business. Those two things are the keys to achieving director level status within your Sensi business. And then the last one, part 3, we'll put pencil to paper and actually walk through some what-if analysis on how to make those numbers, what those numbers need to be, and how to make those numbers and project what those numbers need to be for your own Sensi business. So let's get started. Let's go over the basic requirements, because there's really just three. The first one has to do with your own personal sales. You have to sell $500 in personal retail sales volume yourself in the month that you achieve all three of these requirements. If you don't make any one of these three requirements, this being one of them, then you don't qualify. I would, however, encourage you to focus on building your Sensi business with the idea in mind that you're going to do $500 in personal retail sales volume, or work to achieve that, what we call building your sales engine within your business model, where you can achieve $500 in personal retail sales volume month in and month out as just a matter of course. Money in the bank, if you will. Why is that important? Well, as you're building your team out, you're going to be adding team members, and they're going to be adding team members, and those team members are going to be adding team members, and we're going to go over an example of that here in a minute. And as they're making sales every month, in order for you to not leave money on the table and to collect your commissions or royalties on those downline team members, you have to meet this minimum base requirement of $500 in PRSV. So that is a minimum requirement to get compensation on your downline team, whether you're at the director level or not. So there's lots of people on Team Magnificent, lots of people within Sensi who do the 500 plus every month, and I would encourage you to figure out, how can you build a sales engine? Learn the components of making that happen for your business, and you'll be glad you did. Okay, the second component is that you have to have 3 active frontline consultants, and I'll go into that in a little more graphical form here in just a second. And then the third element is that you have to have $10,000 in group wholesale volume. Now, group just means essentially everybody on your team for all intensive purposes. Okay. Wholesale volume differs from retail volume in that commissions have been deducted. So retail sales here, personal retail sales volume, the difference between retail sales volume and wholesale volume is that commissions have been subtracted. Okay? All right. So when you're building your Sensi business, or any Sensi business, it starts out with one person, and that is you. In this case, it's represented by graphically here as me. Okay, so think of this as your Sensi business. Now, we talked about breadth and depth. You're going to start out working on building your business from a breadth perspective. Okay, what does that mean? That means you're going to be adding people to your team. And as you add those people towards your team, you're building out the breadth this way of your Sensi business. Now, as I mentioned, one of the requirements is that you have to have 3 active frontline consultants. These are considered frontline. Those that you recruited and added to your business are your frontline consultants. 3 of those have to be active. Okay? And what's the definition of active? Active means that they have to sell $150 in sales themselves. Okay? Retail, not wholesale, retail. Personal retail sales volume. It's $150 for 3 of these on your team. So if you obviously the more you have, the better, for 2 reasons. One, all of their sales will add up towards your group volume, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But let's say 1 or 2 of them maybe didn't make active status in the month that you achieve the other 2 director requirements. The more you have, the better chance you have of having more active, achieving those 3 active frontline consultants. Also, a reason why the more the merrier in terms of your own frontline consultants is the wider you can build your team, the breadth of how you build your team is going to play a big role in the depth aspect of how your team develops over time. So you can see, for example, if these were the only 3 that you had recruited and the best they had done was each adding 1 themselves, then you would have 6 people on your team. However, if you manage to find 1 here and another 1 here who happened to find someone here and here who were good recruiters, and then they picked up 3 each, now you can see how exponentially this thing can expand. So the more the merrier here in terms of how many frontline consultants you're adding to your team, because as they're adding people to their team, you're going to find you're going to run into people who are going to be very good at adding people to their team, which by definition becomes your team. They join your team. So this is a very typical normal scenario we see where you've got some people who only have a few people underneath them on a team, and then you have other people like this one and this one who are more rapidly growing as teams on your team, and that's how your numbers expand. So again, you really need to focus on breadth here. That's going to pay big dividends in the depth that you're able to achieve as well on your team. Now, the third requirement, or let me go over the second requirement. Second requirement is that you personally have to sell $500 in PRSV. Okay, so requirement 1, 3 active front lines. Requirement 2, $500 in sales yourself. And then the third requirement is essentially adding up all the sales of all of these people on your team from a wholesale perspective, so commissions deducted, and that needs to equal $10,000. And when that does, magically you have made director. Okay, so to summarize, it's all about breadth and depth. The breadth addresses this requirement, and the depth is what helps you address this requirement. And in part 2, we're going to talk about how to build breadth and depth into your Scentsy business.